everyone! Before I get into this month's book review that I promised, I do want to give some news and updates regarding the Star Wars reviews on this channel, as well as react to certain things that happened at D23, and I haven't really given my thoughts on yet, so I definitely want to talk about that stuff. So what better place to talk about that than in my monthly Star Wars related videos? So without further ado, let's get started. First of all, the Star Wars reviews on this channel. I was looking ahead at the schedule, and I was looking at the books that I have lined up to review for the rest of 2019, and I came to a startling realization that I have pretty much burned through everything that I want to review, except for the Young Jedi Knight series. Once I'm done with December's review, I will have reviewed pretty much everything that I want to review except the Young Jedi Knight series. So, really, rather than force it, pun intended, I think December would probably be a good place to stop the Star Wars book reviews. And then eventually, because the Young Jedi Knight series is a 14-book series, so I have to dedicate a lot of time to reading it, and there's no way I'm going to be done with that by the time January rolls around. So, I think it would be for the best if I suspended the Star Wars book reviews after December, and then when I get around to finally rereading the Young Jedi Knight series, I can do those reviews. But once December rolls around, I will have pretty much reviewed everything I want to review. Both the stuff I love, like the Thrawn trilogy, Shadows of the Empire, the Old Republic series, the X-Wing books, the New Jedi Order. New Jedi Order was really the big one that I wanted to tackle. I thought it was a pipe dream that I would get through all of those friggin' books, but I did it. And also the really bad ones that I wanted to cover, like the Jedi Prince series, the Crystal Star, the Jedi Academy trilogy, all those good ones. The Aftermath trilogy turned out to be a nice surprise. I underestimated how bad those were, but I think at this point I've pretty much reviewed everything that I think you guys would find interesting. I can't think of too many other things. Again, I've got a few more reviews lined up, don't worry, for September, October, November, and December. So I've got plenty of stuff to get me through the rest of the year, but after that, I'm pretty much going to be out of good stuff. So I think it would be best to just stop the Star Wars reviews after December until I get around to finishing the Young Jedi Knight series. Then I will do those reviews, and then that'll pretty much be it as far as Star Wars book reviews go. So it's been a fun ride. I've enjoyed it. Basically giving you guys monthly book reports on the Star Wars material that I've read, but maybe I'll do like a top 10 Star Wars books, top 10 best, top 10 worst, or something like that. But the reviews are going to be done by the end of the year. Again, they'll be started up once I actually finish reading the Young Jedi Knight series, which again is 14 books and it's hard to get into. But so that is that. Hopefully, I'm not upsetting anybody by saying that, but it is, it's just the nature of things right now. I don't see any reason to like. I mean, even with something as massive as Star Wars, where there's a ton of material, like a ton of material, there's a finite level of material to really go through, and eventually I was going to get to an ending. Maybe I could go into the cartoon shows, maybe, because I'm one of 10 people, I feel like, that remembers the Ewoks cartoon and the Droids cartoon. So maybe I could go into that, who knows, but that's a maybe. We'll see how that goes. But so yeah, I just wanted to provide that update to you guys again. Hope I'm not upsetting anybody, but that's the future of the Star Wars book reviews moving forward. So count on December being the final review. There's going to be one review per month leading up to that. And then eventually sometime in 2020, I'll get around to reviewing the Young Jedi Knight series. But other than that, we are done with the Star Wars book reviews. So moving on from there, I have to react to some stuff that happened at D23 and some stuff that was revealed. We'll save the most important for last, but two shows that Disney is producing for their streaming service, Disney Plus, had some very interesting bits of news come out. The Obi-Wan Kenobi show is in development, and Ewan McGregor has been cast as Obi-Wan Kenobi, once again, reprising the role that he played during the prequel trilogy. Great casting, great to have Ewan McGregor back. I thought he was one of the best parts about the prequels. Take from that what you will, but a really good idea having him cast as Obi-Wan Kenobi for this show. I'm going to make it super, super easy on you, Disney. So if anybody is watching this that can get this back to Lucasfilm and anybody else working on the show, I'm going to make it super easy for you. The Expanded Universe Kenobi novel that I reviewed as part of this channel, adapt that book, and you should be okay. It's one of my favorite books from the Expanded Universe. I think it's great. And I think if you're going to make a show about Obi-Wan Kenobi, I think at the very least you should look to that book and try to adapt that into the show. And another thing, don't try and make this like a 10-season show either. It's like, I think this can be a one-and-done season miniseries, and I think you'll be fine. But I am excited to have Ewan McGregor coming back. And if he acts out at least a basic structuring of the novel that I love so much, I think that would be really cool to see. And speaking of Ewan McGregor, I just watched Christopher Robin the other day, which, total sidebar here, has nothing to do with Star Wars, but I'm just going to say, I hate the Disney remakes and all the live-action shit that they're doing. I hated Aladdin. I hated Maleficent. I hated Beauty and the Beast. I just hate their fucking remakes, and I hate that they're doing Little Mermaid. I hate that they did Lion King, which made $1 billion, because of course it did. I hate that they're remaking Great Mouse Detective, which is my personal favorite one. I just hate these goddamn remakes. I hate them with a passion. Christopher Robin is by far the best one I've seen. And it's technically not a remake, but it is like a return of the animated characters in a live-action setting. That was really friggin' good. And the entire time I was watching it, I was like, I cannot believe I'm enjoying this movie as much as I am. They must have caught me on a really good day. I don't know. But it makes me kind of sad that that's the movie that kind of got overlooked. Critically, it was like, audiences didn't really go see it, didn't make a lot of money at the box office. It's the best goddamn one that they've made. Come on, people. Let's support the good one that actually has some creativity and heart put into it. For fuck's sake. But anyway, that's my little rant and my movie recommendation. Go see Christopher Robin. It's worth your time, I think. Especially if you loved Winnie the Pooh as a kid, I think it's definitely worth your time. But anyway, sidebar ended. I'm intrigued by the prospect of an Obi-Wan Kenobi show, and I'm happy that Ewan McGregor was cast. And once again, I think the best way to do this is to at least use the Expanded Universe novel as a starting point and see if you can build off of that. But again, making it easy for you, Disney. It's right there for you to adapt. I'm just saying. The other major show that they've been producing, we got a trailer for, The Mandalorian. Now, saw this trailer, and I have to say, it looks like it is the Boba Fett movie I always wanted. And what I mean by that, when I was younger, even when as a kid, I always wanted a Boba Fett movie. And I wanted that movie, it was a very specific vision of mine. I want it to be the Man with No Name trilogy, the Dollars trilogy. I want, Fistful of Dollars, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, one of those. The Clint Eastwood spaghetti westerns. I want it to be like one of those, set in the Star Wars universe with laser pistols. And that's all I want. I just want a straight-up space western. And I want the protagonist to not talk. As like in my vision for this Boba Fett movie that I always built into my head is that Boba Fett will barely talk in this film, if at all. He's a silent protagonist for most of the film. And we just get a straight-up spaghetti western and set in Star Wars. And that's all I ever wanted from a Boba Fett movie. This show, The Mandalorian, which supposedly takes place in between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens, which is a pretty huge time gap. It's 30 years, so who knows when that is. But based on what I saw in this trailer, it looks exactly what I wanted out of a Boba Fett movie. It's not Boba Fett, but it is a Mandalorian who looks like Boba Fett, and he's silent and doesn't talk, so, there's that. And it looked badass. It looked awesome. It looked like an old school kind of spaghetti western. It had a little bit of that Rogue One kind of edge to it, where it looks a little dirtier and a little bit more gritty than the more polished Skywalker episodes that we've gotten. It looks like something that I would enjoy. And after watching, I heard that they were developing this thing, but I had no idea what it was about. And then I saw the trailer, and I was like, I'm kind of on board with this. I kind of want to see this. This looks really good. So we'll see how good it is, but I'm excited about some of the casting. Carl Weathers is in it. Apollo Creed, my boy. I never opposed to seeing Carl Weathers in anything. That man should be cast in everything because I love him that much. But, of course, I'm exaggerating, but I just, I love Carl Weathers. But yeah, the trailer for The Mandalorian got me excited. And I was like, okay, you have my interest. Again, this looks like they plucked ideas out of my 8-year-old brain and just plastered it right on the screen. And I mean that in a good way. And it's like, okay, this looks exactly what I wanted. So hopefully the show lives up to the promise that the trailer seemed to suggest. And yeah, looked pretty good. Looks like something I should be excited about. Something I am not excited about, unfortunately, is Star Wars Episode 9: Rise of Skywalker. Now, I was going to save this talk for when we got closer to the movie, sometime in November, but given that they just dropped the new trailer with that minor clip that got everybody buzzed and talking, I feel the need to talk about it. So, we might as well do it now. Star Wars Episode 9: The Rise of Skywalker, I think at best it's going to be a reset button that does everything in its power to try and win back the disenfranchised fans who were unhappy with The Last Jedi and Solo and pretty much all the woes that Star Wars has had since those movies were released. At worst, I think it's going to be a flipping disaster. And the reason I'm not excited for this movie is that every move that they've made, as far as the marketing goes, literally every single one, has been about, oh, let's bring Lando back, because the fans love Lando. We need to win back those hardcore Star Wars fans because we pissed them all off. And it doesn't help that they're right in the midst of a disastrous execution of the Star Wars theme park, which, how the fuck do you screw up a Star Wars theme park? I don't know. My sister was telling me, it's like, yeah, they got a hotel that's themed like Canto Bight, and it's like, that sucks. It's like, guys, Star Wars Hotel. It's either got to be the Cantina, it's got to be Jabba's Palace, or it's got to be Cloud City. Come on, put me in, coach, I'm ready. Fuck's sake. But anyway, yeah, let's bring Lando back, because that'll make the fans happy. Let's bring the Emperor back, because that'll make the fans happy, even though it makes absolutely no sense for the Emperor to be a factor in this story at all whatsoever. We gotta rely on the Emperor to kind of save this mess that we're in right now, because it's clear to me, and when the Last Jedi first came out, I gave it a shot, and I kind of like, alright, they did a bunch of weird scorch the earth things, but let's see where they go with it. And it's clear to me now, based on what I'm seeing with Rise of Skywalker, that they did not plan any of this shit out. And I don't care what J.J. Abrams says in interviews, there is no way in holy fuck that any of this was planned out. At the very least, J.J. may have had a plan when he made 7, and then Rian Johnson came along in 8, and basically just scorched the earth, and said, fuck it, I'm gonna do whatever I want. Basically, regardless of how Rise of Skywalker turns out, and even if it turns out to be good, this is gonna be the weirdest fucking trilogy ever, because there's no unified vision or clear plan throughout all 3 movies. It just feels like J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson having a slap fight with each other and using each other's films to express how much they hate each other. Because Rian comes along, it's like, oh, you did all this mystery box stuff with Rey's parents and Emperor Snoke or Supreme Leader Snoke and all this other stuff. Yeah, I'm going to throw all of that away. And then JJ comes along and is like, fuck you, I'm going to undo all of your undoing. So Kylo's going to rebuild his mask. Luke's coming back. The Emperor's coming back. And I guarantee you Rey's parentage and Snoke's origin are going to be explored in this movie. No doubt in my mind. And here we go again. They're going back to the Death Star ruins because they just can't get themselves out of the shadow of the original trilogy, and which was the main criticism of Force Awakens. And everything about this film just seems like a desperate attempt to get people excited to go see it. And that's really what that clip was at the end of the trailer, with Dark Rey holding the double-sided flippy kind of nunchuck lightsaber thing, whatever that was. It's like, guys, there is no way in holy hell that Rey is turning evil. None at all. It ain't happening. Not gonna happen. I remember when Transformers The Last Knight came out and they were promoting Optimus Prime as having turned evil and he's going to kill Bumblebee. I was like, that is not going to stick. And sure enough, you watch the movie and it's like he was brainwashed and then the good guys say the exact right thing that snaps him out of it and everything goes back to the way it was. So really, like, the whole Optimus Prime is evil thing was really just a cheap marketing ploy to try and trick people into going to see the movie. And that's what this is. And even I was hearing right before I started filming that they accidentally leaked on the Star Wars website that the Dark Rey was just a vision, and that's it. And I'm sure it's like, it's either a vision, or it's a clone, or it's like, her picking up another lightsaber while confronting Palpatine and teasing that she's going to go evil but really doesn't, or something like that. Dude, if she were gonna turn heel, she'd have done it by now. She would have done it at the end of The Last Jedi when Kylo Ren stuck his hand out. Which would have been, Red Letter Media said in their review, like, that would have been the perfect place to end the movie, right when he sticks his hand out. And it's like, holy shit, that would have been, I mean, that's a cliffhanger right there, right? But it's not going to happen, and it's just a way to kind of drum up interest in a movie that is, trying to win back a bunch of fans that are a little disenfranchised after Episode 8 and the failure of Solo and all of that. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on Rise of Skywalker right now. Again, I don't want the movie to be a disaster. I don't want it to be, but based on what I'm seeing so far, it just feels like they've realized that Last Jedi was a mistake, and now they're trying to undo their mistakes, rather than just kind of like, well, really what they should have done from the very beginning is have all 3 episodes mapped out. Because say what you will about the prequels, and Lord knows I could say plenty, everybody else has said plenty, Mr. Plinkett said a goddamn mouthful about the prequels. However, it all feels like one unified vision, and it all feels like Lucas planned this from the start. It really does feel like, at least when he put pen to paper and started writing episodes 1, 2, and 3, it feels like he had a vision of where he wanted to go. Didn't agree with all his decisions, obviously. I don't think anybody did. But at least it all feels like it was one unified vision. This does not. It just feels like very reactionary. It's, oh, we have Star Wars, let's make another Star Wars movie. And then the second one's like, oh, they're expecting all this mystery box shit, so let's not give them any of it. And this one's like, oh shit, we pissed everybody off, so let's do everything we can to win them back. And it's all very reactionary and living in the moment. There was no plan from start to finish, and it shows. It clearly shows. So even if Rise of Skywalker turns out okay, this trilogy is going to look weird when all put together. And, other telltale signs that they're trying to undo The Last Jedi, Kylo rebuilds his mask. Rose Tico, who was the most hated character coming out of Episode 8, she's listed on the cast for Episode 9. However, I have not seen her at all in any of the marketing. Not one piece of the marketing do you see Rose Tico anywhere, so I'm assuming she's going to get the Jar Jar treatment in Revenge of the Sith, where her appearance in this movie amounts to a glorified cameo, or maybe even a Monty Python type role, Sir not appearing in this film. But in any case, those are my thoughts on Rise of Skywalker. It's not looking good. I hope it turns out well. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but based on what I'm seeing so far, it just feels like a very desperate attempt to try and win people back. And that almost never goes well when they start kind of like having to retroactively fix their mistakes right before the ending. It's not looking good. And that's just my opinion. And the whole Dark Rey thing, I'm not falling for it. That's my whole thing, because I know nothing's going to come of it. It's not going to be like this, oh, is she going to go to the dark side? No, she's not going to the dark side. Not going to happen. But in any case, we're all done with that talk. And with all of that out of the way, now let's get into the actual book reviews I intended to do for this video. And like I said in my previous video, I'm going to be finishing up my reviews of the Old Republic books. Namely, these 2 entries. Deceived by Paul S. Kemp. Paul S. Kemp, those of you who've watched my previous videos, you may remember that he also wrote Lords of the Sith, a book that focused on Darth Vader and the Emperor, and a little side mission that they got wrapped up into. This was part of the new Disney canon. This is his contribution, his major contribution, in my opinion, to the original canon, the expanded universe. And Fatal Alliance by Sean Williams. Sean Williams also helped co-wrote the Force Heretic trilogy. I believe he also wrote the novelizations to Force Unleashed. But he also wrote this book as well. And with all that said, let's get started with Deceived, a book that I think is really, really friggin' good, and one of the better books in the Old Republic series, which is really saying a lot, because if you've seen my reviews of the other Old Republic books, whether it be Annihilation, Revan, or the Darth Bane trilogy, I really like the Old Republic stuff. It's, and I didn't get sucked into the video games, but there's a lot of material there from that period of the Star Wars timeline that's just really good and really well done. And as I said in my previous video, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that it takes place so far into the past that it's not as reliant on the continuity of the films as a lot of the other books are. So it's really more allowed to be its own thing. And there's not even a lot of reliance on continuity, between the different books. Annihilation, Fatal Alliance, Revan, and Deceived, and even the Darth Bane trilogy, they're all like their own separate stories taking place in this long ago part of the Star Wars timeline that really doesn't affect the movies at all, and they're just all kind of allowed to stand on their own and be these great little standalone stories. Like I said, I really liked Annihilation. I really liked the Darth Bane trilogy. And I really like this one. I think Deceived might be my second favorite Old Republic book behind Annihilation, which again, I still highly recommend Annihilation. But Deceived. What is Deceived about? Well, it begins with the Sith Empire invading and conquering Coruscant, destroying the Jedi Temple, and the attack is led by a very memorable character who's actually on the cover of the book, Darth Malgus, who, if you'll notice the breathing apparatus, seems to be a callback to Darth Vader in a lot of ways. There's some similarities there, in the sense that he's actually got a heart underneath all the, the black and the darkness and the rough exterior, because he does have a lover and has a love interest throughout the book, which pays off in a big way at the end. I won't spoil it, but so he's a little bit more three-dimensional than just a straight-up bad guy, although there are similarities to Darth Vader. As we find out in the movies, Darth Vader, there's a lot more to him than the black suit. But what this does, starting off the book with the invasion of the Sith Empire conquering Coruscant, it actually affects the peace talks that are going on between the Republic and the Jedi and the Sith Empire. And this event kind of, skews the peace talks a little bit and throws things a little bit more into the Sith Empire's favor. And it also creates a unique dynamic where a young Jedi by the name of Aaron is upset that the peace talks are still going on and the Jedi aren't launching a plan to take Coruscant back. She's upset because her master was killed by Darth Malgus, something that she finds out later in the book. And she wants to go to Coruscant and kick some ass, basically. She wants revenge. She wants to avenge her master. And as we all know, revenge is not the Jedi way. So she's tiptoeing towards the dark side a little bit, wanting to avenge her master. And Darth Malgus is not happy with the peace talks because he's like, look, we just took over Coruscant. Let's just kill the fuckers and get it over with. So what's really interesting is that you have these two characters on opposing sides that has to come to a head at the end of the book. And of course it does. I don't think I'm spoiling anything by saying that. But they're both kind of very similar in that they're kind of at odds with their own side, even though they end up being the key representatives of their side throughout the book. And let's see if I can pull up something here. With both of these books, we've got some very odd, anagram sounding names. So I just want to make sure I pronounce everything correctly. Aaron ends up forming an alliance with a smuggler-type character by the name of, let's see if I got this right, Zirid Kor, who's, I guess, kind of the Han Solo stand-in for this book. He ends up helping Aaron get into Coruscant, getting past the Sith Empire's blockade, but he's also being followed by the organized crime element. He's in trouble with the Hutts, sound familiar? And he's got a sniper on his tail by the name of Vrath Shizor, not to be confused with Prince Shizor of Shadows of the Empire. This is one of the few cases of Star Wars characters actually sharing a similar name. Which you think, with all the characters they've created over the years, you would think that would have happened far more frequently. Fun fact, there's actually a character in the Droids animated series. He was like a space pirate. His name is Kybo Ren. Not Kylo Ren, it's Kybo Ren. And I think that's kind of funny. Obviously, it's something that was a complete accident, but, you have a character from the 80s from a cartoon show that almost nobody remembers named Kybo Ren, and then the main villain of the sequel series of films, over 30 years later, is named Kylo Ren. I just think that's really funny. But, in a universe so massive, there should be characters that at least come close to sharing names at some point, right? But in any case, so they've got that element to worry about, is that they've got Frath Xizor on their tail. They've got to get past the Sith blockade. They've got to get past the Sith forces. And Aaron has to find out who killed her master and then go kill the bastard. She's very... got a great tunnel vision there. And along the way, she starts to doubt, or not necessarily starts to doubt, but Zirid, and I'm sure her Jedi superiors will feel the same way, that what she's doing is going down the dark side, and if she does this and ends up killing Darth Malgus out of anger, she's going to turn into a Sith wielding, red lightsaber wielding asshole like he is. And when we finally come to that point at the end of the book, it feels like a worthy climax because I legitimately did not know what Erin was going to do. Is she going to go to the dark side and kill Malgus to avenge her master, or is she going to die at the hands of Darth Malgus and just be another victim of his wrath and a victim of her own headstrongness of just rushing into trouble when she didn't need to? Or is she going to make the right choice and walk away and kind of not necessarily forgive, but do the Jedi thing and not kill out of anger and get out of Coruscant while she still can and allow the peace talks to continue uninhibited? I'm not going to spoil what happens, but I think the book is very interesting. I think the characters, specifically the main two, who would be Darth Malgus and Erin, I think are great opposing forces throughout the book. Darth Malgus in particular is very memorable. I think is one of the more memorable characters from this particular time period of the Old Republic series. And he does something at the tail end of the book that legitimately shocked me and really put him over the top as one of the all-time great expanded universe characters. So Deceived, a pretty basic, straightforward story with a lot of interesting themes and a lot of character development and things that, like, okay, I don't know what they're going to do. But it's all told in a very straightforward way. So it's a pretty engaging read and one that I found quite easy and enjoyable. So of all the Old Republic books, I would say Deceived is number 2 behind Annihilation. Annihilation is still my personal favorite of the Old Republic books, but I think Deceived is very, very good. I highly recommend it. I liked it more than Lords of the Sith. So as far as Paul S. Kemp is concerned, I think it's my personal favorite Star Wars book that he's written. So take that for what it's worth. But let's finish out the Old Republic series with another very interesting entry, a Fatal Alliance. What I like about this one, the premise is very good, where you have all these opposing forces and characters representing those forces all coming together. They're all converging on the same place, which is this mysterious Hutt auction, and they don't know what's being auctioned off, and they eventually find out, they all find out that it's killer hexagonal droids that could take over the galaxy if left if they're not stopped, because they like self-replicating and they have interesting abilities like that and very destructive. So you have the Jedi, the Sith, the Mandalorians, the Republic, and all these other different sides coming together that are all converging on this place to find out what's going on. And then when they find out, it's like, oh my god, there's these killer hexagonal droids that could destroy everything. They have to form a temporary alliance to come together and stop it. And again, I've said this before. I said it in my top 20 episodes of He-Man and Masters of the Universe. I like stories where heroes and villains, or even just people that were enemies originally, where they have to come together and work together. Kind of like Rocky 3. That's the main appeal of Rocky 3 for me. Got Mr. T running around, that's great. You got Hulk Hogan running around, that's great. But the main appeal of that film is the fact that Apollo Creed and Rocky Balboa come together and join forces. And that's just awesome to me. And here, while none of the characters are that familiar, they're all standalone characters in the story. You have Eldon Axe, who's a Sith apprentice, and her master, and she's got her own like family issues that we come to discover throughout the course of the book. We have, again, let me make sure I get these names right. Eldon Axe, by the way, is by far the most memorable character in the set. We got Dow, I'm just going to pronounce it, Dow Striver, who's the Mandalorian warrior, who's kind of the one that instigated this whole thing and caused everybody to start converging on this one place. We have Republic Trooper Laren Moxla, and we have a somewhat shamed Jedi Padawan, Shigar Kunchi, who did not pass his Jedi trials to become a knight. So he's kind of this shamed person trying to prove himself. And you have all these different sides and all these different characters with these different backgrounds and different wants and desires and everything. And they all get together, and you think they're all going to, like, friggin' kill each other because it's like, you got Jedi, Sith, Mandalorian, and all these other things. And it's just going to be like this battle royal of awesome. It's really all the main things, all the main factions that we expect to see in Star Wars. You've got like the organized crime element with the Hutts. You've got the Mandalorians, who kind of represent like the bounty hunter side of things. You've got the Republic, which represents like, the rebellion and all the ideals of that side of the aisle, the good guy side of the aisle. And you've got the Jedi, who are ultimately, they're the major force for good in all of Star Wars. And then you have the representatives for the Sith, who are like the ultimate source of evil in the Star Wars universe. So you have really all the different factions that you could possibly imagine, all the most famous ones anyway, coming together and converging on this one place. and extenuating circumstances force them to have to put forth a temporary alliance and work together. When it seems like at first they're all going to be at each other's throats. And I think as a fun little standalone story, I think it works quite well. I wonder if it probably would have worked a little better had the characters been more well known instead of just introducing a bunch of new characters. Because I think the friends become enemies thing works a lot better if you have an understanding and you have like a long history that you spend with the characters. Like if Darth Vader ever had to work together with Luke Skywalker, well, they did at the end of Return of the Jedi, and that was an awesome moment, but that felt like that was earned over a long period of time. Um, because they're all new characters, we're just getting to know them. It doesn't quite have that same impact when they all join together. But for what they are, I think they are very interesting and memorable characters. Like I said, I think Eldon Axe is obviously the standout here. I believe that's her, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that's her on the cover. So very interesting design there. Creepy looking, but the Sith. So, again, Fatal Alliance, I think, is another fairly strong entry in the Old Republic series and an overall fun read. And really, as far as I'm concerned, you can't go wrong with the Old Republics as far as the book goes. I can't speak for the video games. And actually, it's an interesting point. Fatal Alliance is apparently a prequel to one of the Old Republic RPG games. And I read a review, actually, that said that that was a weakness with the book, is that it's really only serves as a prequel to the game and not much more than that. I disagree. I didn't know it was a prequel to the game until I read that, and I think it works just fine as a complete story. I don't think it relies too heavily on having to set up the events of whatever game it's leading into. I think it works just fine as a standalone story. And again, I wouldn't say it's the best of the Old Republic. Again, Annihilation and Deceived are my two favorites, but I think it's quite good, and I think it's definitely worth a read. All the Old Republic books are worth a read, and I'm happy to say it's like, yeah, that was a series of books that didn't let me down. I really love the Old Republic, and again, before I started doing these reviews, I didn't have a whole lot of knowledge of the Old Republic material. I didn't play the games, and it wasn't until a couple years ago that I started reading the books. So, so I don't have like a nostalgic feel for the Old Republic, not the way I do like the original trilogy and the older entries in the expanded universe, like the Thrawn trilogy or anything like that. Shadows of the Empire would be another example. So I'm coming into this almost with fresh eyes, and I really enjoyed them. So I imagine most Star Wars fans would probably feel the same way. I'm sure these books actually came highly recommended to me by my friends who were more familiar with the Old Republic stuff. And like I said, you can't really go wrong with it. I liked every single one that I read, so take that for what it's worth. But that concludes this review. Thanks again, everybody, for watching, and I'll have a couple more Star Wars reviews for you to close out 2019. But for right now, I am done. Y'all have a good night, and I will see you all later.